Hi. It's Joanna, Early Morning Ascension Show. And we're going to talk about the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful and dynamic DNA activations and what that really means in the process of your ascension path work, your ascension experience, your enlightenment experience, how it is the actualization of all that you are. The self-actualization is enlightenment. As much as you're aware of who you are in all moments as you grow and expand into the allness of who you are, taking it from the individuated self, from our 3D stories, and healing and clearing all the vibrational stories that we've been brought up in about our value and the love of who we are, and the limitations of all that we are, everything that we've been taught in limitation, separation, and all the 3D stories that are so very valuable, because that's the juice, and that's the greatness. Those are the ingredients that create that allness, and that creates that oneness and the reflection of all the stories that we've come with through all timelines. And that's why we release judgment as we're moving through and into our mastery, because we understand that everything before us is an aspect of us. It all has equal value. It all has equal belonging. It all has equal treasury. It all has equal validity and encompassment of God's creatorhood. And so that's why we can really just soak within, really getting intimate and in love with who we each are, so that we become that full, beautiful, shining, sacred geometry of the piece that we are. We can't do it for another. We can only be that full, shining experience and exploration of who we are within who we are. And that is only through that self-discovery, self-exploration, and then the new self-explorations through expression and experience. And that becomes really rich. That becomes that tangible expansion and contraction experience. Then you really know you're living as this lush experience of you as spirit, the beautiful cell and the vessel of you in spirit, and you in spirit, and you in spirit. Then what we talked about a little bit, which we talked about, is these light packets and DNA, and how we're going to start feeling into these portals and quasi-physical 5D experiences as these assimilation experiences of greater packets of multidimensional energy. And why the other day in our video, so feel free to go and watch that. I think it was the 11/11 video, where we talked about the upcoming the upcoming collective energies, and what we can expect to hear, so that we don't go into fear. We just allow ourselves just to ride the wave and just release and accept as much as possible. Anything that comes before you, accept it and honor it as part of the story of who you are. Release the vibrational beliefs and the ego that want to keep it in a box or control it, or tie it in whatever it needs to be tied in to fit into an old ego story, and just release everything, and just flow into the fluidity of the now moment, which is grand, expansive, and infinite. And understanding that the sovereignty of the Christ consciousness is the sovereignty of your universality. The Christ consciousness is universality. The Christ consciousness is how we connect as physical beings, the spirit as matter, because remember, our bodies, our flesh, cannot exist without the spirit nourishing it. Everything within our physical makeup is source creator and has attributes of source creator, and it will be found out in studies in the coming years of the medical experimentations about various avenues and portals of our DNA, attributes of how our mechanisms with various systems work within one another, and how they're all operating from the harmonization of who we know ourselves to be spirit. You are spirit and all things in between spirit. The more that you understand that and work with that, the more that you nourish that, you will find, again, the miraculous unfolding of who you are as all energy, as all experience, holding an infinite amount of potentiation within your, call it, physical matter body. And so your body becomes less and less hindered by any of the stories, whether it be a genetic or hereditary disease, or whatever you might feel is a limitation, if you will, although it's very perfect and it always meant to be, because you were created by God, step by step, cell by cell. But now you are allowing yourself to see that you are the fluid, malleable experience that is source, that anything can be transmuted and transformed in the physical, because it is always energy first, and honoring and aligning with that first in the sovereignty of who you are as the Christ, as the sovereignty is who you are as your universality, as the sovereignty of who you are as cell by cell, placing yourself back together again. Then you are starting to harmonize with your oneness and the allness and the richness and the luxuriousness of who you are. So really feeling into the experience of who you are becoming in all and any all moments. And so we thank you for joining us today. We will talk about the DNA just in fun and really collective, collaborative ways. And for those of you that would like to check us out, I've just posted a special 4-card mini. This is just for the seasons that are upcoming. people kind of like a touch point just before Christmas, an intuitive 4-card tarot spread and channeled session with me. They're about 20 to 30 minutes long, and they're on sale right now for $33 US. And so I've never really had any prices that low. So it's a really good, for those of you that have never had a session with me or want to try out Ascension Tarot, and what that means to your multidimensional systems. I've got that special running on right now. So for those of you that would like to connect with me, I've got my goddess hair today. My email is below, and that will be running for whenever I take it off, probably for a week or two. And so feel free to email me for an appointment, and it will be first come, first serve. There won't be a lot of spaces open because I do have other personal clients that I work in, but I just thought I would offer, for those of you that would like to come in and connect with us and your teams and the Celestial Councils, and you feel really inspired to have a short session with me, the offer is below. And so yeah, feel free to tap into that. You can just email me at my email that is below, and I will send you the link. And then we can connect to time. And also the like and subscribe button is down below for those of you that would like to connect with us on an ongoing basis and get our videos when they come up and when we post. There's going to be so much coming, and I'm really moving in an accelerated experience right now. And there's so much that's coming online to me now because I've just recently had a really big activation. And I'm so excited to explore it and express it with you all today. And as I keep going into exploring this new packet and unpacking it and unraveling it, these DNA activations that I've been moving through, it helps me tap into those parts of myself within my soul that have had other reality experiences in other realms as a geneticist. And they've constantly told me those soul aspects that I've had working as a geneticist, and they always show me working on a light ship in this, in these scientific, these beautiful celestial robes, and just doing science and learning, and helping the genetic experience for Ascension. And so when I was going through this one activation, I was asking them to walk it through. What do you do when we have a DNA activation? Can you walk through what happens, what you guys do? What do we do? What does it feel like, in the flow of what goes on? Because I wanted to know what happens. So there's the flow of this DNA activation and what really occurs. And so that's what we're going to go over today. And so the DNA in and of itself is the equation of love. And so if you think that the DNA in and of itself is an equation of all that is spirit, it's the physics and the science that is spirit, and it is cell by cell, molecule by molecule, all that we are as the physical biological beings, every little aspect of whatever the DNA is made of, because it's still miraculously large part unknown to the physical reality that we have here. But there is many, many studies obviously going on with the DNA because it is such a mystical experience, and what potentiation the DNA has for us and we have with it. Most often than not, the experiential understanding we have on our planet is that there is little cohesion between us and the bodies having any control or honoring or intention of transmutation within the DNA. And so we're absolutely knowing that the more consciousness that we allow ourselves to tap into, the more growth that we allow ourselves to honor, accessing those DNA codes that are being activated through God, through spirit, through the divine timing of you and your soul and your readiness, then those DNA activations activate and open up, allowing us the greater knowledge and wisdom that we absolutely have access to, honoring our highest multidimensional health and wellness, light body, and access to the harmonization of all bodies and roles that we have taken to the equal point that our consciousness will allow. Because remember, your consciousness level, the awareness level, the awakeness level, and your excitement to seek wisdom, to seek the wisdom and practices of other different expansive thought forms, philosophies, religions, anything that is the allness of information and wisdom, and then use it in your practical everyday life, the more that you do so in your own excitement, of course, then you're opening up those portals to have those accessed DNA potentiations to be available to you, as well as and equal to the daily self-care that you provide yourself through self-love and nourishing yourself and honoring yourself and being compassionate with yourself, so that anything that does come up in that dense story or karma stories, which will be really important over the next couple months, everybody will see karma stories will stand out more and more and more for us to simply acknowledge and surrender into the lesson, pull out and honor yourself as whole within it, and then surrender it to spirit so that you can call it in as a completed and healed story, so that you no longer have to carry that cycle of karma anymore. And so karma will be really big over the next 2 or 3 months until we close off the year, so that we can start the year on a brand new cycle of vibrational threads. And so in this DNA activation that I had, I was in this beautiful experience of, just really sacred communion with spirit, and saying, I've done this karmic cycle. It was so very painful and so very challenging what I've been through. And I was, saying, I was like this little mouse in the maze that just couldn't find the way up and out because there was just so many blocks being put in front of me. Every moment I would feel like I was 5 steps ahead, there would be like 10 steps, 20 steps that I'd have to get pulled backwards. And there was also others that were playing on my field and in my energy by the various tactics that they were using to kind of play with my path of spiritual uniqueness and individuality with spirit, and my success levels that were seemingly important to others. And so it seemed so, heavy and, so very challenging for me. And so in these communications and in these experiences of my, daily ascension path, and just saying, I'd like to move to a new experience. I'm tired of these levels of just continual complication when I've been doing all the work. I keep learning the lessons and I'm doing the work, and divine intervention is ready. I'm handing everything over to spirit. It's up to you now, God. And so in that divine experience where you're just dropping all of your consciousness into your divine sacred heart, and then the purity of who you are, and that activation of love and pure intention and sacredness of who you are on the journey that you've had, and such compassion for it, that activation of instant where you and source are in the center of your experience. You are the center of your universe. That's where that euphemism comes from. You and spirit are in the center of everything. The center of every molecule is spirit, is God, is the universe. Molecule. So you can imagine that the membranes that occur within the step-by-step universal love equation that is your DNA, you can't imagine because it's just too mystical and magical, and nobody will ever understand our DNA completely and fully, other than the realms that help us manifest the DNA activations. And even then, they're still in awe at how we move through these DNA activations, because it's all new. We've never been here before. This is why I'm so excited. So this genuine and loving pure intention, and this is where alchemy and ascension is really all about the purity of love that you have for you, and it can't be earned in any other way. The mind cannot get you there. The ego cannot get you there. It is through the purity of your heart and the activation of your pure heart with all that you are to alchemize what has been. And only you and spirit can do that. No other person can say, yeah, you've reached the right God energy to alchemize that wound. It's you and God. God says, okay, you've learned your lesson. The forgiveness is there. You love yourself as much as I do. Here you go. And only you and God can know that. That's why it's impossible for anybody outside of you to ever determine anything about your path and what you're worthy of, or your value or anything, because it's only you and God. It's only you and God. And so have that be your highest knowing of your value system. You know who you are, you're loving who you are, you're honoring and valuing, expressing and honoring that experience in all that the hard moments, as well as the good moments, as well as the easy moments. You're meant to have this full expression of feeling into all that you are with spirit and loving it. We exist on a spiral of now. So in this new experience of you and spirit in the center of your universe, and those soft, quiet moments where, you just say, enough is enough, spirit, I've done what I can, I've learned my lessons, there's no more other portals and pathways for me to go on this. Because if you're going to be in front of a lot of people and teaching and leading and helping many people, for mastery, you have to be able to see it from many different angles, from many different vibrational threads. So I could be sitting at a 5th dimensional thread right now, but I had to go through all of those different variations from different perspectives so that I can see it from as many perspectives as possible, because that is empathy and compassion. So that you know that it's all a mirror of you. Are you giving that same reflection of compassion to yourself when you're moving through the most challenging and traumatic times? And so in this experience where the balancing of the male and female bodies are so, so important, when you have that will and intent of the divine male and the purity of this receivership of the divine feminine, and the divine feminine is the birther of all life, then that is when that segment of DNA gets activated by spirit, and it's immediately right now done. And that DNA is bathed in God light. God is that aspect of that DNA strand that just got activated. The DNA strand is made up of carbon and crystalline strands. When it is activated in that crystalline strand, that crystalline energy, again, is that Christ consciousness. It allows you that access to that universality of all that you've ever been. So remember that the universality is all of the soul lifetimes that you've had that are directly in alignment with, again, many different things. We'll try and keep it short. Always, divine timing and relevance is how you will be activated. Your soul, your higher self, and God and spirit and all of your healing teams are all in the team of you as a soul growing and expanding while you're here. Your code, your soul's blueprint, your unique soul story with God, what you wrote with God is of your writing with God. And those that develop your soul are usually only those that really know. And it unfolds and changes, along with those that are here to help you and assist you, because your teams that you come with and the councils and the groups that are here to support you, you're constantly being threaded in different ways, as long as, remember, it's always equal measure. There's light sitting in your field, but are you using it and unpacking it? Are you exploring it? Are you diversifying in it? Are you using it for the greater good? Are you seeing it from all angles and up and down? And are you practicing that new experience of you? And so in that, you are becoming that full soul experience of who you are. That soul fragment has now been accepted and loved and healed. And now you're actually becoming one with that soul fragment. And that soul fragment is living with you and experiencing itself as a public speaker. Maybe you had that DNA activation was those direct codes, was the direct skills and talents and abilities that were connected with a timeline that you were an orator. You know, and you had, you taught many of the great philosophies to assist others, and you needed those skills and attributes to be activated. And remember, when we have the divine timing and the relevance, again, it will always be based on the soul story that you have with God. Not everybody has access to it. Not everybody will know about it because it's not meant to. What you are with God is only you and God. And only information will be opened to only those highest beings that have of the highest intentions. If the intentions are not pure, and everybody that is in spirit absolutely can sense what is pure intention is what is not in pure intention. So anybody that is, say, getting a reading on someone, and someone's getting a reading on someone that for intentions that are not pure, just to get information to know who they are and what they're about, or to read a birth type chart that's not on pure intention, those energies will be felt and known. And that's why some of those readings and most of those readings, for those of us that work very closely with spirit, they'll be scrambled. Because those that just want those information just to want it to get their own private agendas met will always have those experiences scrambled. Because they're not using energy in their highest and the best use. So those are, you know, those experiences that one must learn. One must learn. Spirit knows all, and spirit has the direct intention on how energy will be used. And this is why, you know, again, spirit knows all, and you can't overplay the hand of God. Try as one might may, but God's got a plan, right? And it's not up to anybody to you know, play mouse on it. And so in this experience of who we are becoming and the richness of who we are becoming, it will always have a direct relationship to, your soul's divine blueprint. In that soul's divine blueprint, last year, this year, next year, as the spiral of time continues, you will have DNA activations divinely timed, not necessarily all in the same time, because you're going to have a year where you're really slow because you're going through so much karmic density. And you might only have one activation in that year. The next year, you've cleared so much karma, you're living in a lot of light, you're living in your expression of joy and happiness, and you're having 1 or 2 or 3 DNA activations, maybe even more. I think I've had about 16 DNA activations. And those DNA activations, and again, it has nothing to do about how many and what it is, and there's nothing about quantitative or qualitative. It's about your soul's blueprint, the amount of inner and outer experiential work that you're doing and practicing and loving and becoming and expressing and expanding into the luxuriousness of who you are and what you are with spirit. You feel into the multidimensionality of all that you're becoming, because that is the DNA. That allows you to feel in this physical body, to be present in this physical body, but have those multidimensional togglings between all timelines and all really cool, unexplainable outer reality experiences that you just can't put into words. You just can't. You can't put God into words that we don't even have words for the stuff that we're experiencing, and we won't, because we've been here for the first time. And so I was saying that to a client today, that, you know, for Divine Feminine, it's really exciting because we're being activated through our DNA and through all of the spirals of time. You know, through all of the spirals of time, we've had the stories, such stories of subjugation in the spiral of time, and we're rewriting and re-clarifying who we are every new moment, every new moment. We're activating parts of our DNA that have never been activated before on all Earth history. It's really an exciting time, because this, they were showing me today in my session, that when we're activating these experiences of who we are, we change all of creation, because we're connected with all of creation. That DNA is your multidimensionality. So if you have a soul blueprint, remember your soul story is connected with all the people that you're soul threaded with in that soul family, let's say. And your soul family is moving about the ascension experience because it's moving into a new thread of its collective dimensional experience. Because remember, you are one pearl on the threaded pearl. So your family of beings that you're with, and they come from different dimensions, different beings, your soul family is threaded everywhere. They're pulling you up constantly. That's why you have those aches and urges and synchronicities to awaken. Look into things, start investigating, start researching. Who are you? Start meditating. Those are those pearl threaded synchronicities that ask you to go within, because our whole team, our whole soul family is moving up. Are you going to catch on? And so that's when those vibrational threads start pulling on one another, because they are the quantum experience of higher vibrational light that's coming into your reality. Say, hey, wake up, wake up. And that's why it is really important that the balancing of the male and female experiences, where you're making balanced choices, you're healing those soul stories of the male and the female being out of balance and inequity. You get to then use your full multidimensional body as this multidimensional transporter or vibrational device, if you will, to create those inner and outer interdimensional experiences, which is your multidimensionality, which is your DNA, which is the crystal grids, the water body, the chakras, and all of your multidimensional systems. It's an elegant system that we don't even have words for. When we begin to truly understand, and not much of this is taught, I think our channel is probably one of the few that taps into the multidimensionality of our entire systems of who we are, and teaches it in kind of one space, so that in the exploration of all that we are through the Christic and the multidimensionality of who we are, it affects all that we are. And we're one of the few channels that does that and puts it in as best layman terms as we can, so that anybody that's awakening can tap into anything and get something in their field activated in that remembrance of what they need to remember to release the density of limitation or fear or separation, because we're all in this big soup of multidimensionality. How much you choose to work through that density, how much you choose to own yourself and honor yourself and live within the benevolence of oneness, then you have the divine timing saying, yes, you're ready for it. You've learned your lessons. And so what they were showing me today about these DNA activations is that, and why I've gone through as much as I have, is that in these DNA activations, you're constantly going through these spiritual tests to ensure that you're ready for the capacity of what that DNA activation means. Because that one strand of DNA that is opened up by spirit, bathing it with light and bathing it with love, that's what spirit does, right? That second one, spirit has recognized your pure intention of you, to be more of you, to feel more of you, and that love is equal with spirit. That is when that light is bathed and that activation kicks off, and it's like, and that is all that you are being activated to another dimensional frequency. And so what occurs then is then your teams come in. There's many things that happen simultaneously as well as in order, if you will. And then your teams come in and they have their steps that they go through to assist in the massaging and the soothing of that activation to ensure that it is received through the rest of your multidimensional systems. The endocrine system, any synaptic energies that need to be recoded are usually done after, because the DNA needs to take place first to see what synaptic wiring, although I have had them always doing synaptic rewiring with me. And so but that is because too, that because of my channeling and because of the multidimensional information I take on, I'm constantly being upgraded in my brain and in the channeling fields. But they do, the teams, your healing teams, they're usually, you know, anywhere from 2 to 3 or however many you need, that specifically work on life systems. And those life system healers, they are specific masters at DNA. And they've been through the process of evolution and ascension many, many times. Usually from, you know, mine are from Sirius and Pleiades, because they have gone through ascension again and again and again, are very familiar with the human systems. And Sirius, depending on, again, your teams will be there for you in the moment that you need whatever it is that you need, because your soul's plan is constantly changing and you're growing and evolving. So your teams are not going to be the same year to year. They just won't. There might be some that will stay with you because you've contracted that you wanted to be with them when you walked through that 5D gate, and they wanted to be there for you. But your teams, when that DNA activation occurs, there's teams that they have obviously checkpoints that they go through to ensure that that DNA activation is then smoothed out from the rest of your body. Because, and why we've often said the daily self-care, honoring and accessing that light, unpacking the light, making sure that you're able to integrate and process and understand the light, understand it from different levels that you're able to understand it, interpret high vibrational information and wisdom, because that's what light is. How to put it in your words that you can explain. Because that access of light in that DNA, say is this codon right there, that access of your DNA right there, that one little piece, which is like this, you know, that like that might encapsulate, you know, a whole lifetime of being a master in the Pleiades doing genetics. And so your ability to prepare, you know, your devotion to, you know, making sure that you're doing your studying and you can devote to your work and you can devote to the time to care for your fields, to care for your bodies. When you're taking on greater light, you're going to need to care for your fields and your body in a greater way, in a different way. You're going to need to create that safe and sacred space so that your bodies can be healed and cleared in enough what we call time, if you will, so that you can then regenerate and recycle your energies with Gaia, and in different ways those activations can continue. And that's what Spirit always wants to see from you, equal measure, because that is your evolutionary promise. When you turn on to say, I'm ready to awaken, who am I? Then that's when you never ever feel alone, because you know that within you, you've got teams and beings always with you, just saying, let's go, let's do this. You know, let's have some fun. You're meant to have fun here. And so often when we don't have fun is because we're stuck in systems that allow us to feel so separate and lacking of self-worth, because they don't define who we are. They never did, and they never will, right? You are the richness of who you are, the luxuriousness of who you are. That's your DNA. Your DNA is a multi-dimensional technicolor dream code, and it's threaded together from all lifetimes, from all love, from all that you are. But you can only experience it and express yourself within it and experience yourself within it multidimensionally, threading within that DNA strand to the exact point where you've allowed yourself to waken up, and why you do have to be prepared to use energy in a benevolent way, understand universal laws, understand that how much your pacing of your body, everybody's body is different, all pacings are unique and different, and all is perfect, all is valued, all is equal. And so to understand it and never ever want to rush that process, because those are again attached to ego, and to understand that you're on this unique adventure of dynamic experience, and it's always done in divine timing, because Spirit will never set you up to fail. Spirit always wants to set you up to succeed and know and love and explore more of who you are, and then express it as widely and as deeply as possible. And so that intimate communion that you have with you is that first initial touch point of your desire and your ache, your free will to say, I want this activation, and whatever it might occur. It might be a field activation. It might be a chakra activation. It might be a DNA activation. It might be a resetting of the mental patterns and taking out some of the mental blocks and stories. You can set these intentions with your teams when you've just come up against that karmic wall again and again and again. And you need that universal help to come in and say, okay, enough is enough. Where are these lessons leading me to? I've done everything I can. There needs to be this experience of divine intervention, because of the blocks that are being pressed against, you know, one person that, you know, continually is asking for universal alignment and help. And that's when all of the universe is watching all things. Nothing gets by the universe. And then things are shifted and moved, boom, 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 boom. because you, again, your soul family is connected with so many others. So if you're being stuck in this maze and your vibrational pearl of the thread is not coming out, spirit will absolutely ensure that everything is moved out and the obstacles are all moved out of your way to ensure that you're going along with that pearl threaded. And it's up to everybody else to do their own work, right? Everybody has to do their own work in their own unique time, with their own unique stories, with their own unique gifts and skills, and the story that Source has with Source. Your story with Source is your source with Source. Your source. Your DNA is connected, directly linked with you. And so these DNA activations are so profound and so exciting. And usually when I find the DNA activations is you get like real pasty, dry mouth for 2 days, and you have lots of foam in your mouth, lots of energy that's moving and shifting through the recreation of the cells. Then you know you've had a DNA activation, and you got to just drink lots of water and lots of fluids. And just keep the continual water flow, and give yourself a lot of rest, because you will feel rested. And so some of these DNA activations, as they were telling me, is that you'll feel kind of strange and awkward and just remain as present as possible, because especially when you're at now this quasi-physical 5D portal, and we're just entering in these 5D experiences, and you've cleared a lot of karma, you're going to start feeling these really incredible multidimensional experiences that we just don't have words for, again, because we've never been here before. Especially for Divine Feminine, we have profound experience and energy behind us to start rewriting a lot of humanity's understanding and experience and expression of us through our own unique individual stories of what it means for us to be Divine Feminine, how we get to rewrite who we are, to really start rewriting who we are as new archetypes for our collective, what that means for us, and really bathing it in as much love and care and attention as possible, because we are basically really sending in that love and those nutrients, if you will, to the soup that is spirit, the soup that is 5D, and those templates that the children walk on. That is so really important for them to see themselves differently, and then the separation and the lack of value that they have for themselves, and to see themselves as absolutely in alignment with spirit, in alignment with Source. Their soul's blueprint is unique and profound, and they are absolute magicians on this planet, and we'll never let them forget it. And we're preparing that for them. Not until my last day, we're all preparing this magical experience for them. And so part of that DNA activation is your access to all higher vibrational multidimensional realms, and to be in multidimensional experience. And those quasi-physical experiences that will be awkward at first, but you can assimilate to if you're remaining present and open and allowing. So just allow yourself to slip in and out of these quasi-experiences of dimensionality that are absolutely not 3D when you're walking from one store to another to another. They'll be different, right? So just allow that to play, and it's so amazing. And then to nourish your cells with as much light and love as possible. That cell nourishment is really important for the possibility of what occurs within that DNA activation. So your DNA is activated, but you still, again, have to do equal measure. You know, how are you nourishing yourself? Physically, mentally, emotionally, etherically? Are you, researching? Are you doing stuff? Are you looking into things? Are you expanding who you are? Are you unpacking it? Are you spending time with it? Are you looking at it from different angles and practicing it different ways? This is why I said 5D is not going to be what it is in 3D. We're going to be spending a lot more time inner. We're going to be spending a lot more time inner direction and inner guidance. And we're going to be doing a lot more of our vocational alignment with Gaia, with our grids, with the ecology, because that's how our intuitive systems really start turning on and becoming one. And the alignment of our one heart, and also the multidimensional councils and groups that have so much in store for us based on each and every one of our individual soul blueprints that were meant to totally transform the world. And so this is where it's really exciting. And so, again, yeah, nourishing your cells and harmonizing the light, and harmonizing that light is, what are you doing with it? Are you using it? Are you practicing it? Using it means, are you using sacred tongue and practicing the love equation, the compassion equation? Are you practicing forgiveness? Are you practicing patience and peace and calm? And are you allowing yourself to be released from all of those limitations you hold on yourself, and the guilt and the shame? And so those are the equations that allow you just to continue to flow and allow yourself to align. And in that, again, your healing teams, they work on, I've had, most often than not, those of you that are going through the final stages of Ascension, and even the early stages, your lightship teams and your healing teams are with you, life system teams. Constantly working on you every night, doing upgrades on whatever systems need to, more at your time of DNA activation, or if you've had an illness. They're doing a lot of work right now because of all the vaccines, and many of the crystalline bodies and the hybrid bodies just cannot and have a difficult time with the synthetic drugs and trying to balance out the constituents of those vaccines, and that most of our medical world has no idea about the multidimensional bodies and different DNAs of the hybrid children, crystalline children, rainbow children, and how these vaccines affect those dynamic collectives, and why it's important that we start sharing these videos and talking about it so that we become more self-aware and know that the health of our bodies is absolutely honored within ourselves, and how we can take absolute control and sovereignty over all that we are as multidimensional beings, and begin more of a sovereign self-advocacy for who we are as divine Christic multidimensional beings, that we can transform all that we are in moments, and we don't need to manifest collective viruses. And so you're prepared in these equal steps because Spirit knows, God knows that DNA activation in 2 months' time, you're going to be meeting with that activation in your DNA. Perhaps it was to understand law and philosophy, and you in one lifetime you're directly responsible for research for a philosopher, and you helped write philosophy texts in the 1500s, whatever, back in 1900 AD, whatever that was. You have these experiences that are coming up in 2 months where you're going to be speaking on behalf of a collective that were abused by power and had different types of abuses, and you have to speak on behalf of this collective and understand how to do research and speak in the philosophical ways for all of our human experience, and then harmonize it all together in a one statement, so that you're now bringing it to a 5D experience. So Spirit knows why and when those activations occur, and why it's always divine timing, because Spirit knows that you've got a job offer coming here, you've got a project there, you've got this there, and you've got that there. As long as you're opening up to the allness of who you are, those activations will just naturally take place. And you'll have the gifts, the skills, and the wisdoms when you need them. You'll be in the awareness of these activations because you'll just wake up, usually when you first wake up. And when you're doing your self-care and you're in that meditative state, you just have this urge and this ache and this really great excitement to look into one thing in particular, or something in particular. You'll get these vibrational essences in your field to look into this, to look into that, maybe take a class on this, maybe take a class on that. That's how you know you're intuitively harmonized with your higher self and your soul, because your soul is working with you to say, this is coming up in your soul's blueprint, try this, this, and this. This is coming up in your soul's blueprint, try this, this, and this. And of course, it's always free will, but that's why staying in alignment and knowing who you are, and why you have to go through those lessons of not listening to outer stories and not listening to other people and not giving your power away, because in your inner sovereignty and feeding and nourishing yourself as Spirit, you are absolutely guided on every step, and you navigate to where your soul's blueprint is meant to take you. And then you get those activations. It's a perfectly organized system. Just when the ego messes with it and we give our power away and we play these systems of lack and limitation and control, that's when you play those little maze games, and you come back to that same point. Okay, well, now it's time to get realigned, recalibrate. Right? And your teams will absolutely make sure, if you're on a path and you've got your soul family here and the pearl is threaded and you're continually bumping against the wall because of whatever reasons, your Spirit and God will absolutely say, okay, all burdens are gone. And you will notice overnight, boom, 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 things are gone. And your life just seems to flow. Because you're not meant to have those burdens. When you've learned the lessons, Spirit will move you ahead. And nobody has authority over that. Nobody does. As much as some people might think they do, they don't. God is God. God's got a plan. And so those are the paradigms of Spirit and multidimensionality reality. And you just knowing that. As long as you are aligned with you, God's going to get you wherever God's going to get you. And you have those realignment moments and miraculous experiences, even those that have near-death experiences, vehicle accident, any type of accident or anything. Those are realignment moments. Those are those big, profound moments where you thought, wow, I've got to look at life a little bit differently. Like, what the heck was I doing? And you're not purely aligned with who you are. Your Spirit always knows your potential, but it is the ego that drives that lower self into making choices outside of itself that doesn't really serve the soul and the Spirit for full fulfillment. Ego is not fulfillment. Ego is short-term through safety and through the practices and patterns, but it is not the soul fulfillment. And that's why it's always nourishing the inner self. And to assimilate the experiences that you're having, to just, review and reflect so that you can constantly make new choices and make that new redirection. Am I reflecting upon how I'm using and unpacking this light? Am I feeling myself as sensual, and within the sensual reality, can I feel into all these vibrations? Am I using it? Am I honoring it? Am I offering it to others in unconditional love and respect and honor? And so these are all of the things that create those level up experiences, so that you know that you're always on this path of the Vesica Pisces, of these crisscrossing realities that are offering you these little portals to see into, these timelines that you really want to create. And God is always giving you an opportunity of, what are your timelines that you're creating? Creative, happiness, healthy, everyone working together, better healthcare systems. What are your intentions for future Earth? Put your intentions into the grids and into the vortexes. Better Earth where we don't have viruses. Better Earth where we are not mandated to take vaccines. A better Earth where we are all caring for one another. A better Earth where no one inhibits another soul on any other path but the one that it chooses. The absolute honoring of free will. The absolute honoring of abundance for all. And all is shared equally back and forth, and all are lifted equally. And those are each soul's experience that they must go through and seek within to find out where are they at within it and how can they get rich within it. So these DNA activations have a multidimensional expression, exploration, and experience based on all divine timing. And the teams that work with you how to massage and smooth out the activation once it has occurred, and what you need help with during the DNA and after the DNA activation. But it's also up to you to equally stimulate that DNA activation. The light's there. Now you got to use it. Use your body in a different way. Live more sacredly in yourself, because you're giving that love back to your cells, back to your body. You're not going to choose foods that don't honor you and things like that. So Spirit wants to say, we're doing the work here, but you got to work hard. Well, they've said that to me. We got whatever you want here for you, but you got to put in the work. Most of us, we do the work. 24/7, we're doing work. And so they're just telling me to take time and you gotta focus on putting time off now. So your healing teams are light ships and in your dream time, and also the healing that you give yourself. So again, you honor yourself every night in self-healing and forgiveness and love. Always allowing yourself to live authentically. No matter what's going on in the outside world, offer who you are authentically. Be authentic, live authentic, speak authentically, stand up and speak your truth, stand up and speak for those that have forgotten their voice, and stand up and be all that you are in love, compassion, unity, and oneness. Because we are meant to transform the systems that have kept us in subjugation. We are meant to transform all that is in subjugation, limitation, controlling others. All of those systems will be uplifted. Each and every one of us has a role to play. Each and every one of us has a part to play. And we're meant to do it in really creative, exploratory ways through which each and every one of our gifts, our skills, our wisdoms are really getting in there. And we're threading up these higher vibrational experiences through which we're offering these really great systems that are purely aligned with source. Higher vibrational light councils. So when you experience yourself as pure love, as the multidimensional aspect of you, all that you've ever been and all that you have been, then you know that you're living in that multidimensional experience within your DNA. Your DNA is not separate from you. It is the multiverse of who you are as spirit, the Christ. The Christ consciousness is your universality. And it allows you to experience all that is multidimensional. Your multidimensional psychic, telepathic, conduit, whatever you are in those gifts, those are your multidimensional gifts as the multidimensional DNA unpacks itself and is activated. And you start working with it and playing with it and honoring it as a beautiful and joyful experience of who you are. That's always been my message. There is so much joy and beauty in who we are as spirit, to explore spirit as spirit, to entangle with spirit as spirit, to expand spirit as spirit, and co-create as spirit as spirit. And that's just what we've been missing for eons, but now we're waking up to it. It's really, really exciting. All is valid, all is real, all is needed, all is required. And there's so much that we have to really get excited about. Really get excited and feel into all of these vibrations we're able to feel and transform our life with. Vibration is how we transform our life. So pay attention to what vibrations are you carrying throughout the day. And then just reset yourself through love and through appreciation. And everybody's going through their own unique story. So just allow it. Everyone has their own unique soul paradigm. You have no idea what painful traumas each person has ever gone through that they don't even know they have. So just know that everybody's doing the best that they can, and stand in your power and stand in your light and set your boundaries for your fields and what your fields need from you and your body needs from you to care for it in a 5D way. Because 5D caring for our bodies is not a 3D. We've got to harmonize to a higher functioning, multidimensional being, right? And it asks more of us in different ways. We will be doing less work. We will be resting more. We will be connecting with Gaia more. We will be drinking water more oxygen-rich foods, and we will be having more fun. That's 5D. Because when you're working at a 5D oscillating and you've got your DNA activated, you're going to be doing less work and actually accomplishing far more, because you're not moving around the dense navigations of the ego, having to, put everything in boxes and compartmentalize and linear and, all of that. So it's going to be an incredibly profound experience. Was there anything else, teams, that you wanted to bring forward in this? Do we want to do some toning on those for anybody that wants to take part in just activating their DNA and everything that they have? Thank you, Spirit. Everybody, every level of awareness that you have is perfect. There is no challenge or discrepancy or judgment on where you are at in your vibrational experience. So just be okay with wherever you're at. Wherever you're at is perfect. It's meant to be. So don't wish to get farther ahead. Don't wish to be different. Just honor every moment. Because when you honor every moment, you offer the highest potential for that flow of light to move through you. You are always perfect. You were born perfect. It's not a race. It is about experiencing yourself as much and as full and as rich as you can in all moments. And that is from the heart. That is spirit. And so just intend that for yourself. I intend to experience myself as spirit, to and entangle with spirit. When you do so, you're going to start seeing things and feeling things in such a miraculous way because you're open to it. You're intending it. And so let's just do some sound activations for those that so desire, just to clear away any densities and any limitations about, I'm just feeling as if you have to be anywhere different or feel anything different than you are, because you're perfect where you are. And usually when I move through a DNA activation, my mouth and my brain are working at different speeds. And so we're calling in the councils of light and the teams of light and all of the beings of light that are the guides and the teams working with everybody listening now in future now moments. For the highest level of benevolence. Thank you, Spirit. The highest level of benevolence. Let's call in some sounds and some great wisdoms of sound and light. Thank you, Spirit. I'm a conduit, a vessel, and an instrument of the divine and holy, holy Father, and the highest. Oh, yeah, Nanaka, Shri Nanaka, I see na alama I see Nanaka Alalaka. I see Nanaka the case, she Nanaka it's a case, see Nanaka. Oh, eight, she, night, but got to ne, she, ananaka. CCI, night, no, eight, she, I know, she, but I get naka, eight. Ishi, I know, my ishi, I know, in that. Ishi, I know, ishi, I know, ishi, I know, oh, yeah, I know, ishi, I know, I know, thank you, Spirit. And they were saying that the path of the luxurious is living through the heart of oneness, and all that you see and all that you are as oneness is the tapestry of all that you weave, for all is you and you are all, and allowing that voice of love to live through all that you are, and the countenance of all that you are, being in that oneness. And so it is all about oneness, whether it's the forest, whether it's the water and the ocean, and how have we allowed ourselves to become limited in all that we perceive outside of ourselves, because we've held that experience of ourselves. If we're not caring for our oceans, we're not caring for ourselves. If we're not caring for the air, we're not caring for ourselves. If we're not caring for our children, we're not caring for ourselves. And the inner is the outer, and the above is below. And so now we're flipping everything upside down, and we're saying we are absolutely divine, and we're going to nourish ourselves and live sovereignly in who we are. And we're allowing all of creation to see and live and love from the experience of who we are, with love and light and joy. And all things are absolutely free will and free choice. So feel into what is right for you, what feels right for you. When you're hearing information come across your desk or your computer, feel into the truth of it, because truth is a vibration. Feel into how it feels at your heart and what you choose to entangle in and invest in. And allow yourself to rise higher every day, just knowing that every experience is your step in mastery. Every experience is meant to occur. Every experience is your story with Spirit. And you and Spirit are the guides, and you and Spirit are the fuel and the drivers and the steerers of your own ship. And in that, dear loved ones, namaste. Thank you, Spirit. And so allow yourself to click the like and subscribe button. Anybody that would like to donate, we would love your donations. We thank you so much for being a part of our sacred channel, and our $33 special. And our email is below as well. We love you so much. Yay! So feel into those DNA activations. We're so absolutely happy to help share our information with you freely and with joy. We thank you so much. Bye, dear light ones. Bye.